right, good morning. My name is Katie Hackert. I have been coming to Veritas for 11 years or so. I've had the opportunity to speak in front of women a few different times, and every time it's really scary. We'll get into that later. But I was able to speak last week on Sunday with the little interview thing back and forth. I was really nervous about it, but I did it. And afterwards, I finally took a deep breath. I was like, whew, okay, now I can wait another year or two to tell Rebecca I'm ready to speak again. And then she texted me. She asked me how it went, if I said, everything I wanted to. And I was like, well, actually, I didn't really say the things I was going to. And she's like, good idea. You can teach and use those things. So then instantly, my 30 seconds of relief all of a sudden became really nervous again. But either way, as I was looking at what I prepped for last week's interview, and then she said, oh, and teach on Matthew 25. It's like, okay, I'll teach on Matthew 25. I'll just incorporate what I had. And as I started reading Matthew 25, I realized that the Lord is so good. And what I was thinking I was prepping for last week was so applicable to what's in Matthew 25. And then the more I started reading into Matthew 25, I was like, there is Lady Wisdom and Lady Folly all over this parable. And with parables, at first, they seem like they're just a story. That's what Jesus used them as, but there's actually teaching in them. And he was using this in crowds, so then people that didn't have the Spirit or they didn't want to know more, they weren't following Jesus, they wouldn't understand them. But then later he would go and he would tell his disciples what these really meant. And at first I was like, well, I've read Matthew 25, this parable, a lot of times. I know what he's talking about. And then every day that I studied it, I was like, this is so much deeper than what I thought it was. So I'm trying to convince Rebecca to do a whole Bible study just on this parable. So we'll see if she goes for it. But like I said, I've been going to Veritas for about 11 years, and in that 11 years, I have been through many different seasons. I started coming to Veritas when I was single, but I also had 2 kids. So I was a single mom, and then I got engaged to somebody that I knew before, but then re-met at Veritas, and we got married. So I had my single parent, engaged, married, and then started physical therapy school while I was single and engaged, and then finished it when I was married. And then I had a job where I was working weekend package, but 50 out of 52 weekends. So I was almost full-time employed, but I was at home the rest of the time, had more kids in that time. I've just been through a lot of seasons in the last 11 years, and reading through this and reading through the Proverbs, I have been given gifts that look different in different seasons, and the way that you steward gifts in the different seasons, it just looks different. And that is just becoming more and more obvious and more sweet to learn about. So she already talked about what a talent was in this parable, and then how we can think about them today. And we're going to go more into that, but we're going to dive back into the parable, and we're going to see how the servants respond to some of the things that are given to them or tasks that they are supposed to do. And then we're going to reflect back on ourselves. What about me and my talents or my gifts today? Where am I seeing Lady Wisdom in those things, or where am I acting out like Lady Folly? So the first question we're going to see, or we're going to ask ourselves, or that I start asking myself, is why would the master give this money over? Like Rebecca said, one source says it's $1 million. Another place I read it was 1 talent was equal to 15 years worth of wages. So that's a lot of money. So why would the master give it to his servants? 5 talents, that's a lot. 1 talent's a lot. Why would he do that? So that was the first question that I started thinking about. If he was giving them something, he had an expectation for them to use it. He had an expectation of what they were supposed to do with it. And then that also would lead to the expectation of there should be a return on it. He has an expectation of the work that they're supposed to do and an expectation of what they're to do back with what they have gained. So we'll see how they responded. The first two servants, as we can see, that they got to work. And this is where I love the questions that were popping up, because I also saw they got to work with the abilities that they had, but the master already knew their abilities. So the master knew them. He knew their abilities and then gave them the talents accordingly. So the first two servants, they got to work. And again, then I started asking myself questions. What does that mean? That means that they had to trust the master in what was given to them. They had to trust that he knew that they could use it well. They had to be deliberate in their actions every day. They had to choose to work every day. And in doing that, they were able to produce a return. 5 talents more, 2 talents more, double. And when the master returns, they can show him, I was given these talents. I went to work. I did what you wanted me to do. And here's the proof that I was using what you were giving me well. I was using the opportunities well. And kind of like an implicit observation I came up with in my own head, I don't know, is that they were probably given a lot of opportunities because of what was given to them. I'm just thinking modern day, slightly modern day, I don't know, somewhere in the middle. You're given money. Could that money lead them to be able to go learn from someone how to do a certain skill, and then they take that money that they use to learn that skill, and then they invest it back, and now they're using that skill to grow for the master. So I'm thinking they were given this large sum of money as something that they were supposed to use for the master, but the master is blessing them with it because they're given so many opportunities maybe they wouldn't have been given otherwise. Again, that's just me wondering. So they used what they were given, and they used it well. They used it for his glory, and they used it to give back to him. They were stewarding the talent. So wisdom says to steward. But then how does the third servant, how does he respond to this one talent that was given to him? Like we were just reading about, he buried it. And I agree with Rebecca that at first, and all of you, that seems safe. It seems like a good choice. I started thinking, what could that third servant be thinking about when he chose to bury it? Maybe he's thinking, that's a lot of money. I'm scared. I don't want to lose that and get in trouble with my master. I'm going to bury it. That way I don't lose his money. It's not my own anyways. Or maybe he's thinking, not my money, not my problem. Don't want to deal with it. My master he's away anyways. He doesn't know what I'm doing. Maybe he's thinking, I only have 1 talent. That is nothing compared to what the first 2 servants are given. He's given 5. He's given 2. They have more skills. They have more abilities. They have more talents. They can produce growth for the master. I only have 1 talent. They can do the work. They can give the profit. I'm just going to keep the 1 talent because it's only 1 talent. I'm just going to bury it. And then the master will still be given more in the end, even though I didn't contribute to that. Could be thinking that. But either way, we come to the end where he buries it, the master comes back. And it does seem harsh still. It seems harsh, cast into outer darkness. He still gave him his talent back. But we see in the text, then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I should have received what was mine with interest. The owner did not want the third servant to play it safe. He did not want that. If he wanted safe, he would have just taken the money to the banker, and then none of the servants would have had to do anything for him. Sometimes safe seems wise. Here, the master does not want safe. It probably was not safe at all in that sense to give his money away to people and then for him to go away. That seems dangerous, but that's what the master still did. Safe in this instance is not wise. It is foolish. Wisdom says, steward it. Folly says, bury it. So what about us? I think about this as fearful inaction, not doing anything out of fear, maybe fear of what we're going to miss out on, or fear of people. Like, where in our lives can we see fearful inaction? For me, I have seen it so many times. If we're going to think about, since I've been at Veritas, I remember kind of dragging my feet to sign up for a connection group. I signed up. I just remember one time asking, or the leader asking me, Katie, will you read this text? Nope. And he was shocked. He's like, oh, okay. Like turns the other way. Why did I say no? Well, I didn't want to read it wrong. You know, we can all go back to our elementary or middle school, high school, college days. Like, I don't want to sound stupid in front of people, so I'm just not going to say it. Same thing with praying. Some people are like, they just give the most beautiful prayers. I'm not one of them. But that doesn't mean that my prayer is not just as beautiful to God, you know, but instead of stewarding those words that the Holy Spirit has put inside of me, I'm going to bury them. Or if we want to go practical in our day-to-day, we are at work and we love to bring up gossip, right? People are gossiping, they're slandering. So are we going to use our talents, our gifts? Are we going to use that inner voice? And are we going to speak up and to stop it? Or are we going to have fearful inaction and we're just going to just let it happen, but we're not partaking in it, you know? So it's not on us. We're just burying it, though. How about proclaiming our faith in front of others, even though that's scary? Are we going to do that, or are we going to bury it? I know there's been lots of times where the Spirit's been moving in me to speak up, or I've been given an opportunity to teach somebody something, but I don't want to teach them wrong. Like, what if I don't have the words? You know, somebody that is new to Christ, they're asking me a question, and I just don't answer it because I have fear that what if the answer is wrong and that leads them further away from Christ? Or what if I say it in a way that is offensive to them and then they don't want to be my friend anymore or anything like that? So instead of stewarding, I bury it. So wisdom says to steward. Folly says to bury it. Where in my life am I taking what God has given me, what he has entrusted me with? Work, wealth, friends, time, aptitude, natural like talents, you know, not like money, but things like singing. Like that is a talent that I don't have. Where am I taking those things and I am burying them or using them for my own gain? So, as I said, I was in school when I started coming to Veritas. I was on the track and I became a physical therapist. And it was great. I was working weekend package. And then I got married. And when you have two incomes, it's a lot different than one income. And so there's the temptation for those two incomes to grow and to grow and to grow. And it became obvious after we have 5 kids right now. And it became more and more obvious after like 3 and 4 that my calling from God was not to work every single weekend as a physical therapist. Early on, I was stewarding my kids when I was a single mom with that income or on the track with that income. But then things changed. God was telling me that that's not where my time was supposed to be anymore. And so it was tempting to just stay working as a physical therapist so we could have a lot bigger household income. It can be tempting to take the job that is salary, but they require you 50 or 60 hours so you can make more money instead of investing that time somewhere else. Another way that I see this in myself, and maybe you can ask yourself the same question, so we make more money, we work the job, we work really hard, we make the money, the paycheck comes in, and we know, we can think about it, that wealth is something that has been entrusted to us. What are we doing with it now? The paycheck comes in, I worked really hard, I'm gonna treat myself. I deserve this. I did this, I worked really hard. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna buy that ridiculously expensive vehicle that looks really cool, looks really nice, I really want it. I worked really hard for this loan that I'm gonna have to keep paying on because I earned it. I worked really hard. I gave my, I did my tithing. I did my 10-ish%, but the rest of it, I worked really hard on it. Like, I get to use that for me. Or how about our time? God has given us time. Are we stewarding our time, or are we burying it in something else? I am home with the kids all day. I homeschool as well, so I'm really home with all 5 of them, and I do daycare for my niece. So mom, teacher, auntie daycare provider, and sometimes Folly tells me that at the end of the day, I get a check out. Just like with the money, I earned this. I did all this work all day long. I did the laundry and the dishes in the kitchen because the kitchen's always dirty. No matter how many times you clean the kitchen's just always dirty. I wiped the butts. I taught the letter sounds. I broke up all the sibling squabbles all day long. And when my husband comes home, Folly tells me, tag out. It is his turn. Or if you have roommates, it's their turn for the dishes. You're done cleaning. You've already done it. So what are you going to invest that time in? Folly tells me that the way that I can, have some me time, regain my energy, just zone out, truly relax, truly turn my brain off, if I pull out my phone. It's only 5 minutes here, 20 minutes here, 30 minutes at the end of the day. I'm laying in bed. It's like just before I go to bed, an hour later, I see that I was just doom scrolling for all that time. Or this Netflix show during the day or at night. I'm just relaxing. It's not a problem for me. God entrusted you with that time. What are you doing with it? This has been really convicting to me lately, and it's not a bad thing to take time for yourself. But what are you doing with the time that you're taking for yourself? Is it truly just like pouring into you? Is what you're doing with your extra time, is it honoring to God? Phones are not bad. Social media is not bad. TV shows are not bad. Like, God gave us all this stuff to enjoy. But when are we going beyond that? When is folly calling out to us to bury what he gave it to us for and instead use it for ourselves. So when I'm thinking about stewarding, it's very easy for me to see that there is purpose in me being home. I can see that I have such an opportunity to disciple my kids, and I get to pour into my husband, and I get to truly joyfully take care of the house. I can see where there is a lot of purpose in what God has given me to do. That doesn't mean that I can forget it at times in those repetitive tasks, but there's still opportunity in all of those repetitive tasks to honor him, to steward what he has given me. But what about the women that don't see that purpose in their job? What about the women that want to be home, but they're just not to the place where they can be? What about the person that is working a job that is, maybe they see it as not from the Lord? I just had somebody in my small group on Sunday, and she felt that way. She says, I want to be home. I don't think that this job is from the Lord. When you are doing a job or a task or living somewhere and you feel like it is not using the gifts that you think God has given you, or you think that it is not a job where you can honor the Lord, you are thinking about God as being way too small. If you are in a job that, I don't even want to name a job because that's probably going to be offensive to somebody, but if you are in a job that you think this is not from God, I am just checking out groceries, or I am just sitting in a cubicle along with 50 other people. If you think that there's not opportunity to still use the gifts that he has given you, you're thinking about him too small. Who's in the cubicle next to you? Who's coming through the checkout line? If you are a leader at work, who are the people underneath you? I'm going to brag on my husband for a minute. He is in leadership, and he has a great job. And because he's in leadership, he just has people complaining to him all the time. He works in an assisted living facility, and there's just people complain. The staff doesn't like this. The residents don't like this. He's having to fire people. He's having to do write-ups. He's having to have really hard conversations. And he can be tempted to think that what he's doing is not the work of God. But when he was able to listen to those convictions inside of him over the past several months especially, he realized that in the way that he was bringing God to work with him, in his reactions to people, in the decisions he was making, in his ability to listen to the staff underneath him rather than just demand what they do, people caught on to the fact that he is Christian without him saying anything. And now he has had people coming to his office and asking him Jesus questions. Some of his staff have started coming to Veritas because they saw how he was interacting with people during really hard situations, and they could see that that was different. Something was different about him. That can be all of us, whatever our job is. One of the questions in the workbook, what job has God given to you? It goes beyond just the title of your job. The purpose is not in the job title. The purpose is in the person that gave you the job. So if we do not steward well with what we are given, with the little bit that we've been given, like the third servant, we're not going to steward well with more given to us. So if we go back to the parable, we can see that wisdom says, I am a servant and I follow my master's instruction. But folly says, I am the owner and authority is mine to decide. So as somebody pointed out earlier in the back and forth discussion, if I can find the right verse here, the third servant came forward and he said, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you scattered no seed. So the third servant took what he had and buried it. My master's plan or expectations for me, I don't agree with them. I'm going to bury it. I am the authority over what should be done with what I've been given. He put himself in the position of master. But then in this verse, I think he put himself in the position of judge as well. Like, Master, I know who you are. You think you know me, but I know who you are. You are a hard man. You are harsh. I knew what you were going to do, so I made my own plans. He put himself in the position of master and of judge. Where do we do that? And maybe to lighten up the question a little bit, where do I think my plans are better than what God has planned for me? Or where do I think I need to put a little of my plans in there just in case he doesn't have it? Maybe I don't fully trust what God has planned for me, so I'm just going to put a little bit more. Like retirement. We're working hard. Are you taking all that money and are you burying it in retirement fund because you don't trust what maybe God has in store for you later? I do this in parenting all the time. I put myself in the position of God, of master in parenting. Most of the time, it's just forgetting that I'm not, or not recognizing what I'm doing. But a lot of times, it's also because I am showing fear. I am scared that my kids are not going to be saved or they're not going to give their lives to Christ. So I try everything I can to teach them and force these good behaviors on them and try to do all these lessons. And if I just do enough, I can be guaranteed of their salvation. Like it's up to me. And it's not. I am to steward my kids. I am not to be their master. I am not to be the God for them. I want to put myself in the position of judge where I can be like, yes, you are saved. Like, you get to spend eternity with me and Jesus in heaven. So the third servant, he can bury it. He can keep it for himself. He can try to put himself in the role of master. He can try to put himself in the role of the judge. But what happens? The master does return. The true judge does return. He comes back. And then it really is Judgment Day. Well done, my good and faithful servant, or you fool, you lazy, you slothful. it does seem harsh when you just read it like this. When you are just reading it as a story, it seems really harsh to be cast into outer darkness. But in the lesson in here, it is not that wisdom comes in just a decision of what to do with your money. Folly does not come in just deciding to bury it. Being invited in with him, with the master here. I will set you over much, enter into the joy of your master. That did not just come with what they did with the talents. Outer darkness did not just come because he buried his talent. There's all the in-between that we can't see. It is the day-to-day decisions. It is the 10,000 million little things that we do that is choosing to listen to wisdom or choosing to listen to folly. It wasn't just burying the talent that was deciding that he was cast into outer judgment. It was everything that came before it. I don't trust you. You don't know what's good for me. I know better. I have these plans. I'm the judge of that person. I'm the judge of me. That wasn't just in bearing the talent. That is what we do every single day. So we can be tempted to fear this warning that we're going to be cast into outer darkness because we all make fools of ourselves every single day. Sin reduces us all to fools, to foolishness. We should be deliberate in our choices that we're making, our actions, our reactions. When our spouse comes home and he does something and we snip at him, or our kids do something wrong and we said it nicely the first 4 times, but the 5th time, it's because of you, you know? If we make a foolish purchase, or we don't, all of these moments of our lives show us wisdom or folly. And that can be scary because I am a fool. Every day I can tell you 50 foolish things that I did or said. I can't be wise all the time. I want to be. I'm like so frustrated with myself that I can't do these things that I want to be able to do. Like I want to be the most patient mom out there, and I'm not. Like I want to respond to my siblings with love, and sometimes I don't. I want to just be a good listener and understand what my friends are talking about or what my parents are talking about, but I don't agree with it. I'm going to judge them for it. I don't want to do that, but I do. The good news is that although the nature of our heart is foolishness, is sin, there was a better servant, the best servant that came before us, Jesus. And we need Jesus to radically change our hearts. So that way we're not just trying to do these sheer things out of like, I want to be wise, but we're doing it because it's not a duty, but a delight to be able to do these things because of the love that he has for us, the grace that he has given to us, the transformation that can take place in us when we know that he died on our behalf. I just kept coming back to the first day. Fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. It really is. When you just come to know the Lord and know his word, you just delight in it. And he just starts changing you. He starts changing your heart and your desires. He helps you recognize that this reaction wasn't okay. And then you want to change it, not because you want to be better for you or for somebody else, but because you want to be better for him. You delight in the gifts, the people, the time, the money, everything. You delight in everything that he has given you because it is truly a delight to use it to glorify him, to grow his kingdom. The good news is that we're going to fail, but we are still going to be invited to enter into the joy of our master, because Jesus was the true and better servant, and he's the master. I love this parable, and I love how it ties in to everything that we have been learning. I don't think that we need to look at this as harsh a reaction, but I do think we can look at it as a warning. We can look at it as a warning, but also just look up a few verses, and it can be a very beautiful promise. And so I think we could just ask ourselves today and every day, will you enter into the joy of your master? That's it. Rebecca's going to come back up.